spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition.
Welcome back to the PSN Sports Network alongside Nikita Magnum and Artie Decker. I'm your host, Brock Bennett. And fellas, the playoff picture is becoming more clear along with the region play. And Nikita, what's your take as the playoff picture and the high school football season is starting to sort of wind down and take shape?
Yeah, it's really starting to become crystal clear there, Artie. The teams are starting to separate themselves from each other as we get in these last two region games.
Well, at this point, these front runners are just trying to, just solidify themselves as that number one seed.
Well, speaking of the playoffs, and speaking of some of the games for this week in region play, let's make some of our picks for this week. Let's start with Section at Cedar Bluff. And Artie, Section, they're fighting for a playoff spot. Can they get a win and keep their hopes alive for a top spot in the playoff?
This week you wouldn't think would mean a whole lot, but actually, the way we looked at it on down the road, this game could be big for Cedar Bluff because, you get in the tie-break situation. It could be a very useful win for them. Section at this point, they're playing pretty well. They're coming off a loss, but they played, solid. And I just expect them to keep on playing real well and get the win here.
Yeah, the tiebreakers end up going to your non-region matchups eventually, so both teams will be looking to dig in and actually win the game here. But I still like Cedar Bluff in this game, Artie. That's too much firepower, and I don't really think Section has the defense to stop it.
And also on that tiebreak note, you got to throw Section in that mix too. It's not likely they'll be in a tie, but you just don't never know.
We're staying in 2A. You got Gadsden traveling to Collinsville. And Gadsden, they're a team that's also trying to get in the playoffs. And Nikita, can they go down to Collinsville and beat the Panthers?
Yeah, I think they'll go down and just handle the Panthers. I think it'll be closer than what most people think, but Collinsville's on that skid. Like I said before, it looks like they're not going to win a game for the rest of the year.
I expect this thing to be really close, but I'm going to have to agree with you. I think, the Bulldogs are just playing a little bit too good for the Panthers at this point. Collinsville's just desperate for a win, but I just don't know if it can overcome the Bulldogs.
Well, what about the Crossville Lions? They're not nowhere near the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs. They travel to White Plains this week for a region matchup. And can they just get their first win, Nikita?
Brian Cloudis, I'm sure, has been searching his brain this year, trying to figure out some way to get this team at least one win so those kids don't feel like they've done all that springtime work, all them summer workouts for nothing, Artie. They just got to piece this win together.
Well, they had high expectations. They were thinking maybe even a playoff run. And, it's got to be extremely disheartening to them, going through 7 games of this season and not having a win. But, looking to this week, I don't know. I've got a feeling that they might pull this one out.
And moving on, you got Fort Payne traveling to Gardendale this week. It's out of region play for Fort Payne. And last week, Fort Payne coming off a pretty nice win over Scottsboro. And, Fort Payne beating Scottsboro last week. That's their first loss for Scottsboro in region play. Fort Payne's still undefeated. And, Artie, can Fort Payne still run the table and get that one spot for 6A Region 7 in the playoffs?
That's a debated thing at this point. Me personally, I don't see them winning this region. But, you talk to others and, you may differ also on this, but a lot of people really like this Fort Payne team to just keep on being gritty and gritting out these wins. But me, I think the Southside may be a little too much for them.
Yeah, I think that this game is going to be kind of a predecessor to what the playoffs hold for Fort Payne. Gardendale, another 6A school, over around around Birmingham. I'm sorry, and I really like Gardendale to win this game over Fort Payne.
Well, fellas, what about the Fife Red Devils? They go to West End this week. They're high favorites this week to beat West End. They're also, in the playoff hunt, going to make the playoffs. We all think. Nikita could it get embarrassing quick?
Yeah, the term mercy killing comes to mind with this game. West End does not have a shot at all to beat Fife. Unless Fife just absolutely falls flat on their face already, I just don't see West End even giving them close to a ball game.
No, you definitely don't want to come in late on this game because it could be 28-0 before you blink your eye. This is just a mismatch all the way around, and it's going to be a long, long night for the Patriots.
Yeah, Fife is just so hard to handle with that running game, and West End, they just haven't played up to what they thought they could this year.
Well, what about the Sylvania at Geraldine game this week? Big game for Sylvania. Geraldine still undefeated in the region. Looking ahead just a little bit, Geraldine and Plainview, they battle next week. And Artie, if Geraldine wins, could it be, I guess, the game of the year to see who gets that top spot in 3A?
It's a huge game. For Sylvania, you're looking at if they can pull this upset, they're still in the hunt for number 2 after the, beatdown they took last week, which took them out of the race for number 1. But, looking at this game, you could say that Geraldine might take them a little lightly, but, knowing Coach Arnold, I don't see them doing that, but I guess it's possible. But looking at the matchup, it's going to be a really close game, and I would tend to lean towards Geraldine myself. Nikita, what do you?
Yeah, as bad as I hate to rain on the Goats parade, I mean, it just looks like Geraldine is going to outmatch them a little bit. If the quarterback for Sylvania, Dylan, if he can get rolling, it might give Geraldine a little trouble in the secondary. But can Sylvania stop the rushing attack? I very seriously doubt it. They didn't really do it much against Plainview, so I picked Geraldine.
We'll have an Outer going down to Cleveland next for our pick'em games this week. Both Cleveland and Outer are fighting for a playoff spot. Outer, they're trying to dig to get in the top 4 of the playoffs in 2A Region 7. And Nikita, can Outer go to Cleveland and pick up a fairly big win?
This is a Cleveland team that's only lost one game. They lost it to Fife, and Eider's lost, a couple in region play. And Eider is in must-win mode here already. They have got to go to Cleveland, and they've got to win this ball game if they want to stay alive in the playoff hunt.
You're correct. I mean, it's do or die if you're a Hornet fan at this point. And, looking at this matchup on paper, it's an interesting matchup because you have a, we'll say, explosive offense in Cleveland and also a lot of speed, taking on a slower, more, not as athletic, but, will hit you in the mouth Eider team. Just two contrasting styles, and it's just going to be interesting to see, what unfolds.
Well, Pisgah heading to North Sand, the next matchup here. Pisgah, they're in the playoff hunt as well. Can they go to North Sand already and get a win over the Bison?
Even though they're struggling, I would have to say yes. At this point, I mean, North Sand just cannot stop anybody. They've yet to hold anybody under 40 points, and, with Smothers and that passing game, and I just don't like the Bison's chances in this one.
Yeah, me either. Even though it's at Higdon, North Sand's just struggling so hard. They're like Crossville. They just can't get nothing going, and Pisgah don't take it any easier on them. They just go in there and roll right over the Bison.
Well, Nikita, Plainview just keeps on rolling, and they play Brindley Mountain this week at home. And, a simple question, can Plainview keep on rolling?
Oh, yeah, Brindley Mountain will not trip them up at all. And I don't want to think they're looking ahead to Geraldine because Coach Pruitt's pretty good about keeping them level-headed. But already, Brindley Mountain, they just don't have what it takes to beat a Plainview team.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're one of the future Bears, you're excited about this game because you're going to get in there and you're going to get some action. Brindley just overmatched in this one.
a lot of times Coach Pruitt, he won't run up the score if he can help it, but sometimes with teams like Brindley, you just can't help. Even though you put third and fourth stringers in like the third quarter, they still manage to get at least, a couple touchdowns in there to put icing on a cake.
Yeah, as you say, you don't ever want to try to embarrass anybody, but, sometimes you just can't help it, and this is a game that could get ugly real quick.
Already Sandrock had started off, fast to begin the year, and they sort of slowed down a little bit here. The same can probably be said for New Hope. Sandrock travels to New Hope this week. Can Sandrock, get a win over at New Hope, close to Huntsville, and, have a spot to get in the playoffs maybe?
Well, at this point, Sandrock's not looking so hot for the playoffs. If they can somehow get this win, they might keep those hopes on the respirator, so to speak. But I don't see it happening. This is a New Hope team that's playing really good defense, and Sandrock's having a hard time scoring points. So that doesn't look well for Jacob and company. And plus, New Hope's really good at home, and I just expect them to continue to be good at home and get this win.
We're looking at a Sandrock team that barely edged out a win over Brindley Mountain, who we just said, is not that good. So it don't give much hope for the Rock Nation. So we'll just go New Hope rolling at home and just keep on rolling toward the playoffs.
On Nikita, the last game here, Jacksonville Christian at Valley Head. Valley Head coming off a bad loss last week to the Fife Red Devils. Can they rebound from that, even though it was out of region play, and pick up another win?
Yeah, Valley Head's at home again this week, and even though they got embarrassed by Coach Benefield and the Devils, they bounced back very nicely against a Jacksonville Christian team that's been hot and cold all year already.
Yeah, I got to lean towards the Tigers on this one. Getting back into region play, a little more comfortable for them. I think might have bit off a little more than they could chew last week, and as you can see on the scoreboard. But they're going to be back, back in the waters they can handle, and I like them to, get the W.
And next up, we have 2 wild card picks this week instead of 1. And the first game for our wild card picks, is Donahoe at Raglan. And Nikita, what do you like about the game, and who wins it?
Wow, so many things come to mind already when we talk about this game. Barn burner, shooting the lights out. I mean, it's going to be a very physical, very nasty region game in this Donahoe-Raglan game.
Yeah, you better strap up the old chin strap, because there's going to be some hitting in this one. I mean, this is not two pretty teams. They do it the old school way, and just, you're not going to see, I don't think, any 40-40 kind of game. This is going to be low scoring and hard to score for both.
Well, the second game for our wild card picks is North Jackson at Aniana. And Artie, we'll go with you on the last one for our wild card picks here. And North Jackson, they're trying to rebound their season. Aniana has had a pretty good season so far this year. What do you like about the game, and who do you like to win it?
Well, first off, let me say, if they hadn't checked the scoreboard and going in this game, they might order and check it out, make sure it's operating real well, because this thing is you're gonna see a lot of points. I mean, if you like action, this is your game. You got North Jackson just dropping 60s and 50s every which way you look. Aniana the same way, 40 points a game thereabouts. Two teams that have played each other in the past basically in this same situation, playing for region titles. Of course, they separated them a few years ago, but they're back together again and know each other well. And I don't know. I kind of want to say North Jackson on this. I know most people would pick Aniana, but I'm going to lean towards North Jackson on this.
Yeah, the Aniana, even though they've been impressive this year, the only game that sticks out in my mind is that weird close game to Susan Moore. I don't really understand what happened to Aniana that night, if they didn't play their starters or what the deal was. But, Susan Moore typically not been that good a team the past few years, and they give Aniana all they wanted.
Well, you got to keep in mind, though, this is an improved Susan Moore team. This is not the team of the past. It's only won maybe 2 or 3 games. I mean, this is a much improved Susan Moore team, but I think, as I said, it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think North Jackson might have just a little bit more in the tank than Oneonta.
Even though, Oneonta kind of let me down in that game, I'm still going to pick the Redskins because you're playing in Oneonta. It's in Blount County. It's going to be, like I said, high-scoring, but I still like the Redskins to win at home.
Well, moving on down for our bucket list, we have put together some of our top 4 and first out for this week if the playoffs started this coming Friday. And fellas, let's start with 1A here. And, I'll run them down. Y'all can give y'all's input on what you think about it. And with 1A, as the top seed is Spring Garden. Rolling in at number 2 is Cedar Bluff. After them at 3, Valley Head. 4, Jacksonville Christian. And our first out is Coosa Christian. And Nikita, we'll start with you. Looking at 1A, the top 4 teams, what do you like about them? And what do you like about Coosa Christian, even though we have them being the first team out in 1A?
Well, with your top 3 teams, they've all beat each other. Cedar Bluff beat Spring Garden beat Cedar Bluff, and then Valley Head beat Spring Garden, and then Cedar Bluff turned around and beat Valley Head. So it's just knotted up there at the top. It's a tight region right now, and, the way we looked at it already, this is just the way it panned out.
Well, as you say, you talk about, Spring Garden beating Cedar Bluff, you got to keep in mind that they've only been about points. So at this point, Coach McWhorter's probably kicking himself because if they get that W, they're not stressing at this point, and they're, well on their way to being that number 1 seed.
We'll go into 2A. We got 5 as the solid 1. Cleveland at the number 2 spot. Coming in the top 3 spot at number 3 is Section. And then the last one in, we have Gadsden. And our first out is the Outer Hornets. And Artie, we'll go with you. What do you like about the 2A, playoff standings as of right now?
Well, as far as the 1 and 2, it's pretty much went as the preseason people had predicted. They thought Cleveland would be that sneaky number 2, and of course Fife being the number 1. Just looking at this region, though, the one that sticks out to me is Section. I don't think anybody had Section making the playoffs, and now here they are looking at potentially a 3 seed.
Yeah, Section, not that good out of region, but in region play, they have really been strong this year. And a team that we thought would really be strong is Collinsville, and they just didn't seem to show up in this 2A Region 7 this year. Even though in 1A last year they were a really good team, they just couldn't match up in this firepower for 2A.
Well, when you underachieve, it's hard to make the playoffs, and that's basically how you could describe this season for Collinsville.
And moving up to 3A now, we have got Plainview at 1, Geraldine coming in at 2, Sylvania at 3, the last spot in 3A at number 4, New Hope, and the first out, the Saranac Wildcats. And Nikita, we'll go back to you. From 3A, why Plainview over Geraldine?
Well, Plainview's looked strong ever since the second game this year. They looked good in the first half against Glencoe, and then Glencoe took over. And, of course, we all know what Glencoe's doing now. They're in the top 10, and they've run the table in that 3A Region 6. So Geraldine just ain't got it to hang with Plainview, so we put Plainview in over them. And Sylvania, like we talked about earlier, if they could somehow beat Geraldine, then they would slide possibly to the 2 spot and make Geraldine travel in that first round.
Well, you're talking about the difference between Plainview and Geraldine. One thing that sticks out to me is Jace Pruitt. I think he's had his best season probably ever as a starting quarterback. And I think, you add in the fact that you got Payne Anderson in that running game like they've had in the past, and then you throw on top of that being able to throw the ball, it makes it extremely hard for anybody to stop you.
Fellas, looking at our last top 4 in and our first out in 6A Region 7, we have got Fort Payne at the 1 spot, Southside at 2, Scottsboro at 3, Arab at 4, and our first out is Aberville. And Artie, looking at Fort Payne, it looks like they may run the table. They still have to get through Southside. But the way we have it is Fort Payne beating them and being the top spot. So what do you like about Fort Payne and the rest of the teams in 6A?
I mean, even though injuries and everything like that at this point, we still, as a group, have Fort Payne at the top. It's just a testament to Ellis, the job that he's done this year, just basically piecing this team together and keeping it rolling under a lot of adversity.
Yeah, their quarterback got hurt in that tough loss to Hazel Green, and then they bounced back with a lead team that's struggling. But the thing about that game was Fort Payne putting in a new quarterback, putting in a whole new offense that week, and they still seem to be rolling. And we just think that grittiness about them is what's going to take them over Southside and put them in that one spot and let them play at home in that first round. Team of the week winner, and that will be the Dadeville Tigers coming out of 4A Region 3. Already it just looked like they was outmatched by the Leeds Greenway, but they somehow gutted out a 6-point lead.
Oh, on paper, they was way outclassed, but for however they done it, hats off to them. At the end of the night, they come out on top.
Well, moving from our team of the week, and guys, to close out the show, any shout outs for this week to anybody that y'all have on y'all's mind? That's maybe following us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah, I seen a Twitter follower we had this week. It is pretforce.com. They mold young men and women into the athletes that they want to be.
Also, just want to say we appreciate the support from WQSB, Jeff Allen and Phil Harris and that whole gang. We need all we can get, and we appreciate it.
And rounding out this week, I will give a shout out to the Sand Mountain Sports Report team and their follow for us on Twitter. And we like to thank everyone for their, follow, for their like on Facebook. If you're going to any games this week, feel free to post your scores on Twitter, on Facebook. Go look us up on YouTube, subscribe to our page, and leave us comments. And for Nikita Magnum and Artie Decker, I'm Brock Bennett. We're signing off once again from PSN Sports Network.
You are now tuned in to the world's greatest. Tonight is the night. Bright lights, high crowd. Yeah, we need to throw down. Everybody get loud. Tonight is the night. A-list can't miss when we burn it to the ground. Everybody get down. Tonight is the night. We stay climbing while our faith can't rise. We stay climbing, now we on top. It's not something you get, it's just something we got. Cause I don't know if you know we playing tonight. Lights flashing when we step in the place, and you can feel the raw excitement from the look on their face. It's like the prize right in front of my eyes to take, and the sky's the limit, got no time to waste. Tonight's the big go, strike quick but creep slow. The competition is absent the moment that we show. Countdown from 3, go, press X to reload. Yet they still try to topple the kingdom that we own. Outnumbered but out